here we go. It's the T.N.F. The night we hand over the keys to use. We've crossed it over a wee bit with a bit of Judgement Day, because that's when Mark fields questions. That's a bit like the T.N.F., kind of a bit like all the shows. But we've decided to put a wee verses in the middle because, well, it's just clickbait pish on my part, really. But yeah, we'll say it's Bhoycie versus the judge. We like that. Or the judge versus Bhoycie, if you prefer. Aye, but I'm sure tonight, actually, despite the verses and the wee title we've put, I've got a feeling tonight we're going to agree on about 99.9% of things, Mr. Cairney. But before that, I'll ask, how the devil are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. I've actually got a wisdom tooth that's hanging on by an absolute thread, so it's wobbling and it's rattling against my other tooth. So if it falls out during the show, please forgive me. Other than that, how are you, Bhoycie?
I'm all right, mate. I got embarrassed by my own face, so I did a pre-pod ritual I've never done before, and I bolted to the bathroom and had to quickly shave up my upper lip. I genuinely looked like I was trying to sport a tash. It wasn't looking good. That ring light's got a lot to answer for. I jumped on. I was like, who the fuck is that? It was like Freddie Mercury meets Frank Gallagher, not even Liam Gallagher, Frank Gallagher. Honestly, I was like, that's the worst look I've ever had. So we quick shave before the game. I had a cigarette as well right before kickoff. That has been the best thing I've ever started doing again this year. Honestly, I thank myself every day.
What's that?
Starting smoking again. Oh, amazing.
That's the worst thing you've ever done.
Recommend it to anyone.
Listen, anybody watching, do not listen. It is the worst thing you could ever start. And I've got a ginger beard, which is inexplicable, so I can't slag anybody's. Why? I pull it off, mate.
Thomas McBeard is getting in the party. He says, I bleached my sink earlier. Thanks for reminding me, Judge. Obviously making reference to how clean the judge's kitchen is. Anyway, all this shite.
The sink's fucking white and it's difficult. You wash a couple of dishes and you go, oh my God. So it's something you've got to do, unfortunately. Don't have a white sink, basically.
Yes, there's loads of people jumping on the bus already. There's 47 live. Whilst you are waiting on the start of the debate, do us a wee favour. Giza, did you see a thumbs up on the screen?
What the hell happened there? Was that just before magic?
This must be a new thing, look.
Is that me? What? What? I should have said that.
No, it's not me. That's not me.
Have I done something to the settings?
My hands are here. What is going on? What is that?
I'll try to stop, right? See what does it.
Kaiser, is that you?
Somebody's done something. Oh, look.
What the fuck is going on?
See what happens to you.
I'm jamming, mate.
I've never seen it like this. Oh, look. I wonder what I've done here.
What is actually going on?
I thought you were doing something. I went, what the fuck?
No, mate. No, I don't know how to do stuff like that. You know.
Idea.
That is bizarre. But hey, for those listening on the audio, every time Mark seems to make some sort of hand gesture, the screen is bizarrely mimicking it. So he does a thumbs up, a wee speech bubble thumbs up appears. When he put his two hands up, fireworks went off behind his back.
See, this is mental. I'll try and wave, right? See what happens if I wave.
He's waving.
Right, let's go for it. Come on. Nothing's happened.
Nah, the magic's gone, mate. I don't know what was going on there. Oh, that was a good start. That was a good start. I don't know what's happening. I don't even know where we were. Have we spoken about Celtic yet? Do all that good stuff. Whilst we talk utter shite and try and work out how Mark's screen's making these amazing graphics behind him. The least likely person on the bus to bring some sort of graphic to the show is the judge. I have no idea what was happening there. Anyway, let's crack on. All that good stuff means do give us a wee like just now. If you hit the like button, hit the bell, hit subscribe, all that stuff. It gets us the algorithm, as Phil McGinley calls it. And that's always helpful because we want as many people on the bus as possible. if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like so many of you have, then feel free to do so. There is a wee sign below there where you can. All the content's free. It is just to keep the wheels on the road and allow us to keep sort of progressing with the channel. The likes of San Fran Celtic, Balls to the Walls, Jim C, Monty, Ali, Charles Smith, Alex. There's loads of yous. Alex, is it Alex? Alex. D-Mac, Danish Motion. Loads of yous. Thank you very much. And I like that from Alex, by the way. She misses the fags. Just get back on them. Honestly, it'll do you the world of good.
Be no harm whatsoever. Listen, I watched I go down rabbit holes all the time, so I've started watching like quiz shows for the 1960s in America on YouTube. So I've watched a few last night, and it showed you the adverts, right?
What have you done, mate?
I'm going to find it after this show how I've did this. But the adverts for the TV show was sponsored by Cool cigarettes, as in like KOOL, and the advert was saying, once you start smoking, you'll be smoking all the time, and it's good for you, etc. And I went, what the fuck is this? This is only the 60s and all, but it's pretty sure.
Once you start smoking, you'll be smoking all the time.
Oh, and you love it. It's like, once you start, you'll be doing it all the time. As if it's a good thing.
Oh, brilliant. What an honest advert. What an honest
advert.
I always remember my favourite one was the Stella Artois one. The slogan just being reassuringly expensive. I always thought, I definitely want a pint of that. Do you know what I mean? Anyway,
do you remember the Snoop Club used to get them sitting down and smoking all this?
It was always the Embassy. It was always the Embassy World Championships and that one.
They used to smoke during each shot. They get back to their table and take one.
I used to get for my lunch a pot noodle and a fag sometimes. Right? For the ice, a wee single. Do you know what I mean? Pot noodle. She had the boiling water of the icy. I think it was 55p, and you get a pot noodle, and then it was 30 pence for a fag. And I'm like, I'm in my school tie. She doesn't care. I don't care. Nobody cares, mate.
There's no scruples when it comes to money, mate. No scruples at all.
I was right in it. I thought it was a good deal. I thought it was under £1. I've got nutrition and a fag. Brilliant. Anyway, let's talk Celtic, because that is what we're here to do. We're nearly 10 minutes in already. 81 on the bus. Thanks so much. Like, share, slag there, all that carry on. Right, okay. Out of Europe. Now, I dare say, Judge Cairney, this is something that you forecasted, something that you expected. And this is maybe the only disagreement we'll have tonight is, firstly, I thought by appointing Brendan ahead of a second consecutive guaranteed group stage football campaign of the Champions League, I just felt that the stars were aligning. And bear in mind, even before Brendan was coming in, there was whispers of Postecoglou, because he'd earned the second group stage, was going to be getting some sort of £30 million kitty, etc., for his summer plunge to actually try and make some sort of dent in the competition. And that might mean, by the way, only extra points on the board and still the same outcome. But by God, that'd be more palatable than what we're seeing right now. Instead, we're out after 5 games. We've got a point from those 5 games. We've conceded 2 goals in every game, 2+ goals in every game so far. We finished with 11 men, I think, probably for the first time in about 3 years, on Tuesday as well. Again, the other frustration for me is this is a group I feel was favourable. I appreciate all the groups are very, very difficult, but this was a group that was doable, in my opinion, to get third. Second being a pipe dream. Third, I felt that in terms of kindness of draws, I think the last 2 years, this is what almost exaggerates the point even more, or puts exclamation marks behind Celtic's failings in Europe, is the actual groups we've had have been ones Celtic should feel like they could be competitive in. I'll give you a perfect example before I come to you. I look at Copenhagen in the Man United group, and I go, look at that group. we would already be that bold saying, you've got no chance, what we're meant to do. And yet there they are competing in a group, I think, of a slightly higher quality than the one that we're currently in. There's real frustration on that level that I think we could have got more points. I mean, what did we get? 2 last year. We've got 1 this year. And even if we win the last game, because it's a dead rubber, it's a fake 4 points. Do you know what I mean? It is a fake 4 points. I just think we've not been nearly competitive enough for what we should have been so far in the last 2 Champions League campaigns. I don't feel we've given either Ange or Brendan in either of the summer windows tools that are appropriate for guaranteed group stage football. There was no, we need to err on the side of caution here because there's qualifiers to navigate, and what if we don't qualify? That used to be the argument. Now when we have guaranteed qualification, they don't err on the side of caution, they just didn't care. And apathy is a word that I've associated with you towards European football, Judge. Where are we when it comes to European football? Is it a pipe dream of supporters, or is it something that's getting treated with neglect by the board?
I think it's a bit of both, Bhoycie, but I think there's a middle ground somewhere. I think we can still speculate to accumulate. I mean, you mentioned Copenhagen there. They signed El Yunusi, who I think would make a difference to your width, and Jordan Larson, who we spoke about last season. And unless I'm wrong, I think they signed they two, didn't they? And that's a level of player we could attract fairly easily when they break the wage structure.
We were shot down for that.
And we were shot down for it. And you know something? With the Jordan Larson would have made a difference in the Champions League. Maybe because he's a different option. He's certainly different. He's more mobile than Kyogo. I think Kyogo's a hurrier and a harrier. He's a good finisher. I think Jordan Larson's more like a Lee Griffiths, drop of the shoulder and behind kind of striker, you know what I mean? And that's a different trait for each player. And I think some sort of winger. El Yunusi, I think, played well in a bad season for Celtic, but the previous season, when it got curtailed, he was one of the players of the year. He was awesome under Neil Lennon. I think he would have done even better under Brendan Rodgers, and I just think we missed a trick there. And we're not expecting Celtic to go out and go for £3 million projects to £15 million, but there's a middle ground there. There's a 6, 7. You look at Jota's and Carter Vickers; they were instant profit makers. Carter Vickers was bought for £6 million. We could have sold him the next window for 10, 12. So the club's going to make money back on that. The fans are going to see a higher caliber of player, and then it just throughout the squad levels lift. It only takes 2, 3, 4, 5, £6 million players. I don't mean it's not going to guarantee success, but let's just look at it. Let's look at the £6 million players Celtic have brought in the last 20 years. Lennon improved the squad. Sutton improved the squad. Hartson improved the squad. Edouard improved the squad. Jota improved the squad. Carter Vickers. There's not been very many £6 million flops. I think the biggest one Barkas was like just £5.5 million. But you know something? He was in the wrong movie. He was just the wrong choice at the wrong time. He never settled because of COVID. He just never found a way into the Celtic team, and I think that was a bad move. I think the Man U goalkeeper has ended up at the wrong club. He's probably a class act, and he will end up somewhere and make a good career for himself. But I just think when it comes to I think there's two sides to this argument, and me and you're on the same side. Celtic should always shoot for the stars, land on the moon, but I think there's a lot of Celtic fans even still new, and I hate to even say this, but who are scared to spend money in case we go bust. And how many times can we explain to them that we're not expecting Celtic to go out and spend 100 million, but when you've got £70 million in the bank for buffers, what's wrong with going out and splurging 30 million? To me, that's not a splurge. Now, if you had a transfer kitty, we spent about 20 million, so it's not as if we didn't spend any, right? But we sold one player for 25, one player for 5, and a few bits and bobs for 1, 2, 3 million. So we made a profit in the window. So there must have been a budget sitting there before. I think Starfelt and Jota were sold. I think they were surprised when we sold them. I don't think they were expecting the bids to come in. So I'm kind of guessing that was bonus money. So if we had a budget of, just say for instance, 15 to 20 million to improve the already sitting squad that contained Jota and Starfelt, surely that it's got to be supplemented by an extra 15, 20, considering the fact we've just lost day two. Now, see if we spent 35 million in that window there, which I still don't think is a big amount of money considering the money we brought in. You could turn around and say, do you know what? The club's invested, we've just spent it in the wrong places. But Bhoycie, I feel like we've not ticked any boxes. None of the players we've bought in are first team ready. There's Palmer looks like he's first team ready and he's going to improve Celtic's width, but there's question marks over Naroki, there's question marks over Lagerbielka, both in fitness and in ability. There's question marks over, over Yang, question marks over Kwon. Well, there's no question marks. I think there's an exclamation marks under his name, but there's
exactly, mate.
And you know, and I sent you use a list that I seen on Twitter last night with Mark Lawwell's signing strategy. And do you know what? All bias aside, the name Lawwell turns me into Dr. Jekyll. But all bias aside, that is one ragtag, really bad signings, Bhoycie, wasn't it? Your Furihashis, your Kobayashis, your Kwons, your Yangs, your Bernabes, and as you say, they've even got the cheek to add Kyogo's contract extension onto that, you know what I mean? And I don't know. My worry is that I think we will improve the squad in January. My worry is that this club, they will improve the squad depth. My worry is that they're still got an eye on selling some first 11 players, or at least first team players, because David Turnbull, in my mind, isn't a Celtic first 11 player, but he's making an impact. And I'm convinced that if he's not going to sign a contract, we're going to sell him and replace him with somebody with a different name for Turnbull, with less ability. And it's just going to be rinse and repeat. And I knew it's got to the stage now where I spoke about it on Sunday. I'm now questioning for the first time, and this isn't the way it sounds. I'm thinking to myself, Brendan, why are you back? Because you've got a lot more to lose than what Celtic have. I think his reputation is on the line here for the Celtic fans and for the wider football and public. And I think to myself, this can't be the vision that was sold to him. That this cannot be the vision that was sold to him in Marbella when Celtic flew at his house and asked him when he flew at Carl McGregor and spoke to him. But then again, boys, you've got Carl McGregor spouting pish today about the board. I don't know if you want to quote it, but it was basically along the lines of the club always strengthen in January and we become better. And the club
we expect it to be no different or something. It's like, fucking hand, I expect it to be different.
So they are a lot better, Bhoycie. And I'm beginning to see Carl McGregor being a bit of a mouthpiece for the club recently, you know, and I don't think he speaks for the fans on the park. I think he's passive when it comes to refereeings. I think he's I don't think he's a type of player that improves folk when about him either, Bhoycie. I don't really see players improving when about him, and I think he's played too much football and he's needing a wee bit of a break, and we can't afford to drop him. And I just think for a club that's won a treble, we're 8 points clear, £70 million in the bank, and the fans are and the fans are furious. That's some magic trick in it.
Well, I think there's a lot of weight to the reasons why, but you're right. When you look at the optics there, you'd be like, what are you talking about? It then boils down to Europe, and it does show. And I know whether we debated the other week about your apathy towards Europe, but you can still use it as some sort of tool in your argument when you're thinking of the negatives right now of how Celtic are being run, because you know they've not signed a player based on what we can do better in European competition this summer. They didn't sign one. No. I think the last 20 signings we've had, Palmer looks now like he's first team ready. And I think the other one whose name is escaping me is Alistair Johnson. Other than that, Maeda, who I think is probably a default player in the first team now because Jota was sold. But he's elevated his status at the club, and Abad has been injured. But whether he was necessarily going to be playing week in, week out, I don't know. Out with that, none. Out those 20 are regulars. But there's a couple of points what just bring in there. When you talk about, you don't feel, Brendan, what was he sold? What vision was he sold? What if the vision Brendan was sold? This sounds very, very hypocritical of me after how I was in the summer, but time waits on no man. You've got to kind of see it you've got to call it as you see it. And unfortunately, the pace that football moves at can make you look a bit foolish when you've got a change of opinion a few months later. Notwithstanding that, it doesn't mean you always have to not back down, double down. Sometimes you just need to accept things look a wee bit different. What if Brendan's reason for coming back isn't because his reputation's on the line, is because he's in as cozy a chair as other people at Celtic are now, and he is now part of the system. If you look at the language he's used to, at times when it's I'm delighted with how the clubs, the recruitment side, if you remember when he took over, he said is far superior to when I left. When he left, we signed Marian Shved, Yusuf Bako. No, was it
Gambo,
sorry. Bio in the final window, I think. And then a few loans like Oliver Burke, for example. He thinks the recruitment's better now. Burke played a lot of first team games. Timo Weah, I think, was signed in that window. He played a lot of first team games. And Brendan wasn't impressed with the signing of Shved. And Bio never looked like he'd be a Brendan Rodgers player, never looked like he'd be a Celtic player. But the rule that applies to Shved and Biomark actually applies to a number of players that Celtic have signed out of that most recent 20 since Mark Lawwell was appointed, for example. Why is he coming out there and saying the one thing he's noticed is the recruitment's far superior to what it was, or far better, whatever words it was he used? He was kind of saying it was right good, compared with before. I can't subscribe to that argument. The other thing I wanted to bring up that you said was a 30 million splurge. Now, 30 million spent could be 100 million made after a couple of good seasons, first and foremost. But not just that, Mark. I wonder if they're reluctant to do it deep down because they don't have the infrastructure or the network of scouts in place that they can truly back. And if that's the case, then that's damning again, all over again, because they've not went above and beyond to get the best of the best eyes for talent out there. They've got guys that can identify potential, and we're stuck in this rut, as you say, rinse and repeat, where if they do well, we'll sell at the first bat of an eyelid. And if they don't do well, they can be seen as inexpensive failures that don't jeopardise the future of the club. And hey, we never went bust. But imagine these dafties with 30 million. See, when you flip it the other way, imagine them with £30 million to spend in one summer, that they be arguing the toss with, I'd say it was an £8-9 million footballer, and Brendan sitting there. Say he was old Brendan, and maybe not this new version that we seem to have right now. Say he was old Brendan, and he's sitting there. He'd be cringing, mate, when they're haggling over an extra, $1.5 goal bonus and that for an £8 million player. Stuff like that. I wonder if they get the fear about that type of spend, which, as you absolutely point out, is within their grasp. It wouldn't be a splurge because it's actually realistic. 30 million, you've got 72 cash reserves. Plus, remember, an overdraft facility of 15 if it were to go Pete Tong. That doesn't mean panic. That means it's okay. It's a manageable overdraft. It's been approved already. But the 30 million in the hands of Muppets would be pretty humiliating for them unless someone proper is guiding them to get the right signings over the line. There's a reluctance to go to that next bracket or even a couple of rungs up the ladder in terms of the type of players that we identify and bring in. And there's a fear there. Now, yes, we could talk about the money side, but just from a football point of view, are they scared because they generally don't have a plan for that? They don't have guys that will identify players within that. Say it was, what would we call it, 5 to 8 million, something like that. I wouldn't trust them with it. And here you then go back to, well, see, you should be glad that it's only us in charge of £2 to £3 million players. You can't win. But I do get the feel when I think about these Muppets in charge of bringing in 3 or 4 guys in that 5 to 8 million bracket. I'm not convinced they would always get it right.
Well, the thing is, I don't think they can see further than their nose. They did a black book that had Dan's name in it. That eventually ran dry, Bhoycie. His players ran dry. And
The bad was the last one,
I actually think that Brendan Rodgers was the right manager, but part of me thinks we opened the black book and found he was available, and we made an easy choice, an expensive choice for us, but an easy choice. Somebody who's been in the building, somebody who's who's been there and done it. And you look at the big players that we have signed, or the big spending. Edouard for 9 million, Carter Vickers and Jota. They three were all in on loan, cheap. So we didn't dive into that market straight away. We didn't go from 0 to 9 million. We dived in and went, oh, there's a player there. we've got a buy-on clause. So maybe you're right. We've not got the foresight or the scouting network or the contacts. But I'd be surprised.
Still comes back to them though, doesn't it? Either
It
way.
does. Maybe I would be surprised if maybe Rodgers is meaning how we identify players is maybe on a different level in terms of the computer analysis, the kind of like this Brentford model where they look at all the numbers. Maybe that's something that's developed over time at Celtics and see who's there last. But in terms of the pool of players, it just seems to be we've went from Dan to Asia. And then what's next? Are we going to go to Germany next? Is Holland next? Are we going to get an Icelandic manager? Is he going to go for that? Is he going to go to Scandinavia market? What's next, Bhoycie? Because I feel like Celtic, I mean, we seemingly hired a company to do an infrastructure search on Celtic, check on Celtic, scour the globe and find somebody to analyse the club. And they scour the globe and then they chap Gordon Strachan's door. I find it hard to think that Celtic hired a company, and the very best person they could find was a guy who was working for Dundee and he's an old Celtic manager, and his son happened to be the first team coach. I just don't believe it, boys. I feel like we've got a phone book or a black book with the same phone numbers, the same contacts. Maybe there's a bit of truth to what you're saying about Celtic not having the foresight to spend that big, but you look at players that are within their reach and within their vision, and you look at some of the players that we've been linked with, and then you've gone, oh, he'd make a difference, but he's probably £2-3 million more than. And then we're putting bids in similarly. So I dare say that for me, I think the final stumbling point with Celtic is always going to be money. I think there's something within this board that thinks that we're going to go bust tomorrow. They just can't get out their head that what
And the
happened
board love
the other
that.
night.
The
And
board
they love it.
love that.
And we've got Celtic fans saying it, boys. I mean, I even told you earlier on, I've listened to somebody saying that the Celtic squad is at its optimum peak for the Champions League. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had to switch it off. But this is what I'm getting at, boys. I think there's a lot. I'm going to steal a quote after the four Tims. Like, remember them during the COVID season. Remember one of them saying there was a large section of your support that deserved that season because of 19 points behind. They were still backing Lennon. They were still backing the team. They were still suggesting it was all lies. It was some sort of Fugazi title. And then they deserved the reality check they were going to get. And I think there's a lot of Celtic fans that deserve Yang and deserve, like I don't know, like Kwon in midfield.
Bernabeu. Yeah, no, I hear you.
And I
I
don't
can't
think
believe you
that,
forgot him, mate.
oh God, he's actually become a bit like he's almost as bad as like McCarthy. Like he's not even getting mentioned anymore. Like you talk about, we're getting asked on a Friday who's fit, and he's going through names like, oh, Scales has got a knock, etc. And I think Bernabeu's on that McCarthy list where he could have a broken leg and be forgotten that he's even in the building. You know what I mean? And I think he'll be away in January.
See, when you talk about the fans thing, right? You say like some of the fans could deserve it. I hate agreeing with that because I don't think fans should deserve it. But the reason it comes back to for me is there was the lack of consistency in the viewpoint of the board changed. And it completely changed because Celtic started winning again. And once Celtic got their shit together under Ange after a ropey start, all the bold stuff dampened, Mark. In fact, and I'm not calling out any other pod, but let's just say 99% of them that might have been campaigning for change, stop campaigning for change, like that. And more fool them. And that's not just podcast, but that sounds silly, but I don't speak to the everyday Celtic man. I can only listen to the content I do, which tend to be Celtic fan media and stuff at the time. And that went full circle. And then you obviously use your platforms such as Twitter, which is about as far as my social media skills go. Not that it's a talent that I've got for it. But when I look on that, it was, you're off your head, mate. Like you're crazy. When I say keep your eyes on the board, remember, they're not the summer there, but the summer before. And I always go back to that in my mind. Now, well, hold on now. And this isn't me making it about myself, by the way. I'm using it as an example. That was a consistent approach that even in the good times, keep your eyes on the folk that I was believing your protest when you said you want to change. I was on board with that. I thought that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There is time for change. And wins compromise everyone's attitude towards that opinion of the board should be sacked. Now it's went full circle again. And a lot of it's because Ange left. But a lot of the reason for it not being like that is because Ange was there. And for that, in my opinion, is poor, because that shows a lack of strength of an opinion to see it through just purely because, I like the manager now and I quite like 3 points every week. It looks weak. And do you know what? The boards smell weakness all over the place. And see, during that 2-year tenure, they got buy one, get one free on Lawwell. They elevated Lawwell to the chairman. They played musical chairs with the rest of the team and somehow found themselves, I guarantee, laughing their heads off when they see Michael Nicholson, or whatever, Mark Nicholson, whatever his name is, and it's all, what a job this man's doing, and actual photos of him and that. These are the same folk that were saying sat the board before, not realising he was on the board before. Now you've got further legacy issues. There's now 2 Desmonds for the price of one. People change their opinion as it suits them, as I was saying earlier, and I get that. But when it comes to the board thing, I do feel that they were compromised by Postecoglou speaking very well to the media, a couple of very, very achievable signings made by Celtic that hit the ground running, but should be more than achievable and should be the bog standard. But because we went and reached out and spent, after a year's try before you buy, on Cameron Carter, Vickers and Jota, this wasn't a bold move as it was made out to be, and $4.5 million on Kyogo. Everything was done with still very contained. But because there was success in the park again, they stopped keeping their eye that they said they had on that board. 2 years later, Ange leaves. Nothing's really changed. He had a shite Champions League campaign, got away with murder for that, no problem. This year, we're not letting him away with it for some reason because he's not there. And all of a sudden, the focus goes back to where it was 2.5 years ago. But that 2.5 years, what the club did, Mark, was get a tighter grip on what is ahead for Celtic. That is on a lot of fans. And I think it's fair when you say that. I hate it being that way, but I do think it's fair. And the one other wee thing that I've not mentioned, Celtic played a blinder on, was in you come. Come into the greenhouse, if you like. Come into the green room. Come meet all the staff. Come meet the players weekly. And see, suddenly after 2 years of that, they were compromised and they were scared to have an opinion that was true to themselves on anything matters Celtic because they were in the door. Funnily enough, Celtic's kind of stopped that. Funnily enough, you'll see people, nothing against Hamish, by the way, thought he was a nice guy. Suddenly he's talking about protests and that. I would have loved to have heard him say that in the last 2 years whilst his previous show went from strength to strength. I just don't see it. It's because he's now not doing it anymore that you hear this. See, at the time, Celtic had the loudest voices of Celtic fan media in their office, essentially, week in, week out. And Ange Postecoglou is a brilliant public speaker, keeping the majority of the other fans suddenly hushed and their opinion on the board deflected by the Postecoglou effect. Now, I look at it like you and I go, you kind of reap what you sow. If you'd stayed consistent and kept an eye on the board the whole way through it, particularly when you see Bernabei being the most expensive signing we make in one summer, not the loan signings, that cash was ring-fenced. The most expensive acquisition we made outside Jota and CCV was Bernabei. Well, you will reap what you sow.
Well, this is it. I think the board rely on the fact that a few wins in the league and you forget that they exist. They would rather you just sat down and paid your money and shut up. But the reality is when things go tits up, the attention turns to the board. And I think the biscuits and cups of tea did make a difference. And I'm expecting a few of them to get an invite, VIP access to the Bucky Thistle home match. I think that'll be the Bulls' next move. VIP press room access and player access for the Bucky Thistle. It sounds like a cheap option, and I think the board will try it, and I don't think it's going to work this time because the biggest elephant in the room is the Green Brigade now. And I think this is I think the certain ones who are suki arse just can't take this on because it's a large section of support or the young mob, you know what I mean, and that's the fact they've got to back them. So if the Bulls got to be called out on their pods, they will. But not just the podcasts, you know what I mean. And I listen to most of them, boys.
That's not, yeah. Just to
and a lot
clarify,
of them are great. But I think the
quickly
fan
say,
base in
Mark,
general.
I'll quickly say in the podcast thing, just so we're clear from the Bus's point of view. The reason we talk about the podcast is that's the content that we can hear as shows. That's why they get mentioned more than the everyday fan. I just want to be clear on that, so it doesn't look like it's a bitch fest.
We speak to most of them, you know what I mean. For instance, the 4 times is brilliant. You get Tony on noon again. He's a lovely big guy, and they're all good to talk to. But and not that we're calling him out at all. They're one of the few that stayed true to their words. But I just think, obviously, we've got friends, but it's just even the fan base in general. I think we all forget about the board. Although we didn't, we spent an hour and a half going off a nut about Peter Lawwell coming back on the board, and another hour moaning about Mark Lawwell coming into the club. And I think when Celtic are winning, that's the time you should be focusing on the bad things.
Correct.
Because if you want longevity and success, you look after the small things. The small details matter to the bigger picture when things are going good. It's like if you got a well-oiled machine, a strong 11, if you start losing 1 or 2 players every summer, eventually that's going to break down. And we've just been seeing these wee cracks and amongst the squad and the club in general, and we've called it out. And I think you've got to keep an eye on this board. And do you know what? I think any fan base, no matter who you are, what you support, I think you should watch the board and what the board's doing just as much as you watch the first team manager, because they make the critical decisions. These guys at the top of the tree, and I don't really know why it was so controversial for you to say like keep an eye on the board, because at that time they just tried to hire Bernard Higgins. Took 4 months for them to deny it. They just brought in Lawwell. They underspent. They did so many things that were wrong, that were obviously wrong, and they weren't getting called out. And if you said something, you're a malcontent. I think the focus is being shifted to them now because the Green Brigade stuff. But I think that's for the wrong reasons. I think you look at the mismanagement in your club. I think we're in an organised downsizing in this club now in every way. I think even the money we're spending on the youth system, I think is for a fiscal reason. I think it will be done in conjunction with the council. I think that will be subsidised. I think it will be to maximise substandard youth players for the next 3 or 4 years rather than spending money. I don't think it will be for to develop and nurture what we've got and improve all over the place, because you can't have a squad of young players with a new facility and still have Dan O'Day and Steve McManus at the top of the decision making there, Bhoycie, because that is people that aren't good enough for their roles. You know what I mean? It doesn't. You can have a different spoon, but if it's still stirring the same pot of soup, it's still the same thing, mate. You know what I mean? And I just feel like from top to bottom, we need a genuine, independent look at the club, because I think anybody walking in would see problems with the board, how that's structured, the manipulation of how the finances are given to the fan base and shareholders. I think the transfer strategy needs looked at. I think who makes the transfers needs looked at. I think the first team setup needs looked at, because I feel like there's players who are nowhere near it for 2 months, then come in out the cold. I think that needs looked at. I also feel like our youth system needs totally scrapped and started for the beginning again, because you look at that B team, there's not a player in there that you would take into the first team. I'm not taking Rocco Vata as serious, because I think when we've been struggling this season, he's still not come near it. And I just think that we're sitting 11th in the what do you call it, the B League, where the East Kilbrides and all the rest of it. We're sitting 11th.
The Lowland League.
Lowland League. We're like 16 points behind East Kilbride, like 12 points behind Hearts B team. And you know that, I don't really take it seriously, Bhoycie, but what I do take seriously is we've got a group of players who are supposed to be our next rung on the ladder of 13 players within the club, and we're finding it hard to compete with civil service strollers. You know what I mean? And I don't.
It's hardly going to inspire first-team managers, is it?
No, it's not. And I think that definitely this board needs definitely watch very closely. Shut up, Lucky Charms.
Bozo the Clown, what an accurate username, the way. I'm just
is he a zombie?
See you later, son. Fuck knows.
Is he a zombie?
I think he's just a clown, eh? So why don't... It's been a while since I've done this. Just block him in.
Do you know what I find crazy? I think Rangers are playing tonight and he's in a Celtic podcast.
He's a clown. He's a clown. Mark, I've got another talking point for you before we go to a few that have starred in the live chat. And I know you're on board with this, so I know the Boys versus Judge thing's a wee bit of a fraud, but that's just what we do. We're all in was the deliberate slogan of Celtic this summer. Now, it's great. I know you're chuckling there, but it's a wry laugh that you're doing. It's a wry smile because actually that's taking the complete piss. But you couldn't help but feel it. The wave of optimism. Brendan, regardless of how he left, had been brilliant for Celtic when he'd been there first time around. People look at it differently now because they're raging that he left. At the time, the reason you're raging he's leaving is because of the job he's doing, right? Otherwise, it doesn't cause the same absolute furore that it does, right? We're all in. I fell for. We're all in. Brendan Rodgers, highest paid manager in Celtic's history. Reportedly, two players were breaking the Henrik Larsson wage limit. I'd only been there for 23 years, so didn't worry about that contract. It was 23 years of 40,000 being the highest wage ever. Apparently, Kyogo and McGregor eclipsed that. And I thought, do you know what? We're going somewhere. This window is going to end up looking very good. I was adamant of it. I could not get my head around it. You've even said yourself, whilst you're maybe sceptical, Mark. Is that the right word? Sceptical, aye. You've just said earlier, you went, what was it that Brendan was sold on then when he came back? So you're still kind of part of the argument I'm making as well. Mm-hmm. Now, that we're all in thing, to me, has absolutely been a case of Celtic trolling their own supporters and using it as a wee carrot to dangle and get Muppets, not because they are Muppets, but because they've been treated as Muppets, to buy. The best bit is at times, Mark, they even associated the hashtag we're all in with Champions League football. We're back in the Champions League. We're all in. Where are you, essentially? Why have you not bought your ticket yet before it goes up to grabs to the general public if you're a season ticket holder, ramping that pressure on not just one ticket, but it could be a family's, as you've always pointed out. It could be a dad with two kids and he's got, fuck, we're all in. We're going to make a fist of it this year. They've been no effort for the Champions League this year in that team. Let's get that abundantly clear. Nothing. So see those words? That to me goes beyond the parody that you could associate it with and actually becomes a wee bit fucking dark. And you start looking at that and going, do you know what? You're taking the full piss here. And it is now just completely salesmanship of the highest order and milking your own customer base dry because the level of respect you have for them is so low. And the problem is too many love this football club for it ever to be the case that they wouldn't sell out all three Champions League games, that they won't get brilliant sale numbers for 3 kits, one that you'll see maybe twice in a campaign, that they won't sell 1,000 pairs of Gazelles, Mark, you know what I mean? That they won't every month bring out a new tracky top that you've not seen before. Honestly, the Adidas original stuff, what's that like? The Tesco value Adidas originals, as a connoisseur of such, they don't even have stripes on them, for fuck's sake. It's embarrassing. They may as well just print the wee trefoil on it themselves. They put on the shirt numbers on the back. That'll be next. They'll just print the wee trefoil on themselves at the shop. Adidas originals. They are milking a supporter base dry, and you're refusing point blank to even consider increasing their level of investment And the one thing that the whole club's about, and that's the playing operation, the team. It's just incredible to see it. And I think that we're all in slogan will be a talking point retrospectively whenever this era comes to either a crashing end or they for whatever reason resign. But in my opinion, that we're all in thing is a damning indictment of where they view the fan base, the arrogance they have, the aloofness they've got, and how much too many can be played by them as well.
Well, don't forget, this is a club that did troll the support during COVID, Bhoycie. That was probably one of the worst times I've had as a Celtic supporter. Not because we lost matches, that happened all the way through my childhood. It was very hard watching Celtic in the 90s, but that was just a terrible campaign. They couldn't go to the matches. It was just horrible. And then they're turning around and putting out birthday messages every day. The fans are going crazy on Twitter and Facebook, and they were doing it the next day, trolling the fans constantly. We're all in a wee message to tell us all that, okay, we did our part, now it's your turn. I remember 3 years ago, just as they were pointing hands across the Coglu, the season ticket campaign was a wee bunch of adverts, and it was, I'm sure it was like true Celtic fans or real Celtic fans will buy or something, because there was a lot of talk about folk, boycotting the season ticket. It was like real. I think the slogan was real fans or something like that. And I remember at the time I was raging about it because I thought to myself, really, is that the road you're going down? Because it was no long after that, before that Celtic fans, we were all offered money back for our season tickets. Like I had 2 season tickets, and I think what did they offer me back? £110 each ticket or something, like the compensation, remember, for not getting to the games. And I wasn't taking it back, but I went, do you know what? I think there was a deadline, like the 31st of January. I took it back on the last day or something. I went, fuck it. The way you've treated me this season, I'm taking it back. I think I ended up spending it in the shop, but that was just all my wee protest, boys. You know what I mean? That I did to the club. There you go, mate. I have that one there, Liam, man. I know. It's like I've turned into Kaiser.
You know what it is? That's what I said to you earlier. I went, he's fuck is it? He's just like Kaiser. Oh, you Kaiser in disguise.
Oh my god!
Do you know what it is? It's because you're on a Mac webcam. Someone came in earlier.
Oh right, Return of the Marc.
The Mac webcam apparently has these filters. But let's get back.
So why have I never done that before? I do that all the time. What's this? Oh, it's disappeared. Okay.
Very, very quickly for those listening on audio, of course, because we are getting, by the way, I don't know if I haven't even told you yet. Joe, we're averaging 2,500 to 3,000 audio downloads per episode right now.
Oh, brilliant.
I think that's miles away from where people think we're at. Like miles away. That's when you start adding that up. It's 10, 15,000 a week audio downloads. So for those who are listening audio downloads, walking their dog, whatever they may be up to, Liam, the Punked Up Warlords, came in and says, start the boycott now. And the slogan he's gone for is, we're all out.
I like it. Hashtag we're all out. Do you know something? I think that might be the next stage in terms of the anger for some of the Celtic fans. I can see fans turn up to the front door and not going in. I can see it. No, the same way we did in the 90s, where there was a genuine purpose behind it because you were buying tickets physically so that the club could see the money that they were losing. I think there might be a message behind it, and I'm with the Green Brigade on this one. If you mentioned it the other day, there we spoke about it as well. I will back the horse as long as it gets me the results I'm looking for, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think this club is. I think they're too arrogant. They're too. It's no like
nothing affects them.
Nothing.
They're too ingrained in.
You see, so this is their life. They sit in the director's box. They're all probably, if they're not retired, they're probably top of the tree in their companies. So they don't really get much truth slung at them. They don't get recognised in ASDA, trust me, because nobody knows who they are. I'm always reading things about Celtic that bore most folk, and even I couldn't spot them in a lineup, Bhoycie, half the time. So they don't get it. I mean, that lassie on the board, Alison, something like her name is. I don't even know who she is. I think she's some sort of financial person. She's been on the board for 10 years. I didn't know she was there until last year. Yeah, these people don't get any abuse. They probably don't got social media. They probably don't really watch Celtic, really. It's just a job to them, you know what I mean? And so the chances are they don't know or care about
How
their
would you
age.
feel if see if when you look at the last game against Feyenoord, and I've already told you, if we were to win that, the argument they'll use is double the Champions League points for last year.
Oh,
That's
so I'm saying it.
progress. But let
This
me
is
get
my one.
I've got a very, 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 very quickly.
Sorry, mate.
Right. But here's the thing. If I'm calling it a dead rubber, how would you feel with that game, aside from every other game we play this season, because every other game is going to be competitive, have a meaning, and affect outcomes? The reality is, the only outcome that can be affected by us beating Feyenoord in a week or 2 weeks' time is Celtic pocket a shed load of cash for the win bonus, which is very high in the
Raise
Champions
Rogers'
League.
wages. I think it's £3 million.
It's around £2.5 to £3 million. But we know what they do when they just pocket it. They just keep it in this bank growing. So see, with that in mind, I can understand why boycotts we don't want to be doing mid-season when it affects outcomes. However, Celtic's neglect of the Champions League might come back and bite them in the arse, because I'm beginning to think if it's a one-off, and I don't want it to be a continued thing, but if there were a game that you could boycott realistically, doesn't affect outcomes other than a financial thing for Celtic, who don't do anything with money anyway, let's get something right. This might be the dream time to do it. A boycott in a Champions League game, and suddenly that, you know, that image that Celtic have of themselves, I mean, this is from the boardroom level, the Champions League nights, under the lights, all this bullshit, you know, postcard friendly pish, birthday card pish as they call it. When you actually take the fans out of Celtic Park on a Champions League night, wow, that shines a light. And the eyes of Europe are watching.
Aye.
You imagine being a fan, regardless of what country you're in, and you're watching your version of the Champions League highlights. You know, it's not going to be an irritating prick like that Jonathan, whatever he's called, on BT Sport or TNT Sport it's called now. Or it's not going to be Gary Lineker or any of that shite. But say you're sitting in, I don't know, Greece, Portugal, Turkey, wherever you are, you're watching your highlights reel because you're just into the football, and you see loads of green seats at a Celtic home game in the Champions League, you'd be pretty confused, right? Suddenly there's ripples going across Europe, and we all know Mr. Lawwell wouldn't like that with his ECA seat at the top table. Suddenly he's in charge of an empty stadium and there's showpiece competition. That doesn't help Mr. Lawwell's cause whatsoever with that seat with him, and it makes him look very weak in terms of get your own shit in order before you think you'll be joining the table to start dictating or influencing how the rest of the clubs in Europe should run. I wonder if that home game against Feyenoord, being the dead rubber it is, could be the one mid-season game we could all go, fuck it, we ain't going.
Oh. Well, middle of the week, pishy weather, get home at midnight. Nah, no thanks. So I can see why folk would do it. But the two things that I think might just make it a bit null and void in terms of like the impact. I think the first one is it's been paid for already, and the second one is you look at that, you would just think, oh, they're already out. That's probably why anybody's went. You know what I mean? You probably just think, oh, if it was match day one, you'd be going, what's going on there? But you go, oh, they're finished boat and fans can't be arsed. It's a lot of money. But I did get your point. I would sooner I don't want to see anything that would impact the team, because I think there was stages during the Hampden season where Celtic were a far better team than what the results were showing. But see, the home matches, they were getting 15,000, 16,000.
What if the words are, though, very quickly, Mark, what if this becomes a thing that we know is coming, and therefore Brendan plays the game and just rotates the whole squad anyway?
Well, I think you should. I think so. The board will think £3 million, blah blah blah. But I think that my worst fear is would they win it that match, because it would give the board some sort of justification for their bad tactics, their bad policy. But Brendan Rodgers as well, you know what I mean? If he's risking first team players like Kyogo and I don't know, McGregor, etc., for a game, it's pointless just for pounds in the bank. Then you're risking the league now. You know what I mean? You're risking or gap in the league. So there's genuine reasons for Rodgers to play his youth team and plus showcase just how bad they are to the board. But I will say this one thing for anybody that thinks the manager, see if the manager has to put messages to the board on the park, that shows you that if that is the case, there'll be a bigger breakdown in communications than any of us thinks possible. If your manager is putting on Burnaby for the last 10 minutes of a game, for talking sake, to show the board how bad the squad is, how bad the squad is, that would tell you that he's not able to talk to the board like adults, and that would tell you that there's a totally different ball game of problems at the club that we don't know about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It would flag
So I
it
think
in front of your
you
eyes
should
for
get that.
whatever. Yeah, that's clever. That's
Clear out
clever.
your minds,
Yeah.
please. I think if he's not able to talk to the board, so I don't think that happens. I think I've heard like guys like Jim Duffy and that mentioned it before, and that probably happens at clubs like Dundee, Bhoycie, where managers are probably told after chairman, look, you've not got 80 grand for that player, and he's maybe bringing on a youth player instead. That's absolutely fucking gash. You know what I mean? That might happen, but not at a club at Celtic. This is where they've got us out of the barrel. None of us want to see Celtic lose. And I was just going to say that about the Hampden season. Like, I think it impacts the players, you know what I mean? And I think the Hampden season was a poor season anyway, but I thought with a better team, we still had some cracking players that year. And I think results were worse because of the size of crowds that we're getting, because a lot of people didn't want to give Hampden money. A lot of folk didn't want to give the SFA money, and we got overcharged for that season we spent there and all the rest of it, and they tried to fine us and kick us out of the league for getting Tommy Burns for Kilmarnock, you name it. So nobody wanted to give SFA money, but the players were the ones that suffered, and the fans obviously. But so I don't know what when I catch 22. What do we do, boys? No buy our scene tickets, no buy our strips.
What is a
Was that the
one-off?
obvious thing to
Could
do?
a one-off stand
No,
like that shake the room a bit?
I don't think it would. I
But
tell
I
you what,
don't want it to be carried on because
no,
I get
no,
that.
it
But
would do,
then
boys. No, it would
go on.
do. This is exactly what I think would do. If the 40,000 home cup ticket scheme members, the Mora cancelled their home cup ticket scheme, and nobody went to Bucky Thistle, nobody automatically took cup tickets this season. Nobody. You know what I'm talking about? Because there's like 40,000 on that list roughly.
Yeah.
And do you know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for my email to go and get charged 30 quid for Bucky Thistle at home, because they've got the boys to do that. Celtic have got the boys to do that, and maybe throw in a free digital Scottish Cup programme as compensation for it being a low level team. The same way they told us that the compensation for the COVID season was the 18 digital matchday programs we got. Remember that? Again, hell, listen to Jeremy McCulloch and Peter Martin for the full season. Nothing surprising me, but I think that was shocking. See that the board boys see if all the home cup ticket scheme members instantly cancel their direct debits tomorrow. That would hit them in the pocket. That would be a major
Very
show of
true.
money.
Cancel the direct debits. Fucking hell.
See there
This
was
is
that.
action for change coming on the
Well,
bus
see the
tonight.
Celtic Trust,
Oh,
the North Club and the boys came out with a joint message tomorrow. I would go on my website. I'd go on my bank and cancel the direct debit tomorrow. So I definitely would. I would back that because I think that'd be a show of defiance, and because the home cup ticket scheme is you go in that to guarantee your tickets for Hampden. We all know
but
that,
they can
right?
just lift it.
But
They can just.
so they just take it. So for
Yeah,
instance,
that's what I'm saying. Nice. Wow.
so if you
Wow.
cancel that, and by the way, it's not a guarantee, because the very best case you're going to get is you're going to get 25,000, maybe 30,000, and 10,000 is going to miss out anyway. So it's not a guarantee. But I think if the Celtic Trust, etc., people with power, a voice came out and said, I think if tomorrow morning, or just say for talk's sake, tomorrow, 15, 20,000 direct debits get cancelled for the Bucky Thistle match, that'd be a lot of money, boys. And it wouldn't just be the money. I think it'd be chump change and bigger picture at Celtic. But it would be it'd be Celtic's first card,
Shot across the
fans'
board.
first card put on the table, and
Yeah.
the next one is well, seeing tickets renewals are coming out in February and March. We'll call you a bluff on that. We'll call you a bluff on the home strip. Adidas deal finally tuned into shirt sales. We'll call you a bluff on that one as well, Celtic. You know, I'm no for hurting the club. I'm really no, because the club is the players and the rest of it. But
I know that.
I don't think we've got much power anymore as a fan base, because basically you're paying it's like a Sky bill. You're paying it a month in advance. You're paying your season a year in advance. So you can't lay back down on it. But we're needing change. We're needing change, and I think we're not going to get them out as long as we keep on putting money. And I'm the world's worst for it, Bhoycie. I mean, I remember my ban lasted one day. I told you I was not going to go to Celtic shops, and I knew I went.
I remember that well.
But it just shows I'm a bigger prick than anybody. I mean,
I know.
but I don't know, Bhoycie. Like,
It's like me at the Dortmund Superstore.
yeah, exactly. Well, what would make you see if you were see if you personally, right? Not talking about Celtic as a club. What would be if you were going to do a wee dirty protest? What would your action be? What would be your definitive statement to the club be if it was you?
I think the eye test is the most important thing, because I think there's such an aloofness and there's too much money, because they've got to publish their accounts each year. So I appreciate 30,000 people don't cancel a direct debit for Bucky Thistle, and they go 72 million just became 72.3 million just became 72 million. Nobody cares, mate. Right? They're just going, nobody cares.
The rest of the season.
I think the eye test for me is always a stronger thing, and it doesn't mean sharks outside the ground. I think it's the voting with your feet. Such a powerful thing. I always stand by it when it comes to a boozer, for example. I've never been put out a pub in my life, but places or establishments in my life have pissed me off. I think they've been rude. They've been, pub restaurants, so we say. And I always take the stand that you vote with your feet. And I always thought that's what crippled me. Not that my pub was crippled, but that crippled my attitude to people when they've not been back in ages. What have I done? See, if a customer hadn't came back in the pub that in my mind was a regular, a season ticket holder, if you will, they were the ones that it really hurt me if I was like, wait, they knew. That's 4 or 5 weeks now I've not seen him. Before you know it, I'm sending a text reaching out. All okay, mate. Not seen you in a while. That's how I used to roll when I was landlord of the boozer. And I do the same as a customer. If I'm in an establishment and I don't like what I'm seeing, I stop going back. Now, we cannot have that continuously, because unfortunately, I'm not fighting when I'm the publican or the landlord of whatever establishment I might refuse to go back to. We're not all fighting for the same cause. They're fighting for themselves. Whereas deep down, we're fighting for the same cause, because we need Celtic to win the league. We need Celtic to win tournaments. That's what we're in this for, is success for the team. But I think there can be instances when you vote for your feet and you just see the optics of it all, and suddenly reality has to bite and go, this isn't you. This isn't on Brendan. This isn't on the team.
Tony Wood, Bhoycie.
This is on you.
Well,
this would be my biggest problem.
They go over finished with 6
The
anyway.
aloofness is too high. But whilst the aloofness is high, no doubt there has to be a frank conversation at some point to go, there was nobody there the day. We could cover ourselves with Bucky Thistle, but Feyenoord, no, you can't. There's no one at Feyenoord game, not because it's a dead rubber. Don't even try and cover yourself in that blanket. If it's not, no one's at a Champions League game that they've already paid for, that to me would be an eye test. I think anyone would look at in that board and go, shit, we need them back on side before this gets silly in the summer. What they would do, though, to condone that, they might not need to do too much based on recent history. Well, it might just be sign a couple of players for the UPL that aren't getting a game but cost 5 million plus, and before you know it, what a man this job is doing. And that's the biggest worry as well. But it's a great question, but that's what I think. I just think the actual vision of, oh, wow, regulars not in here anymore. Why? A European game, okay, we're out, but wow, Champions League, if I didn't expect them to go that far, it gives you a fright. It gives you a wee jolt of reality as to where everyone's at. I don't know. It's just an idea.
No, the worst of it, I'm going to tell you what the worst it is. I think the board's going to eventually call the Green Brigade back into the room and make peace with them and let them back in. They're going to fill the section for the Bucky game, and everybody's just going to forget about the board. Well, I hope no, but I think the board's going to try and just end that, because I think they know that there's a breaking point coming. You know what I mean? They really do. But they don't think that there's like an antecedent. They'll just think the Celtic fans are just spent like that for no reason. They'll not see their side in this. I think they're that kind
They're all hyperactive
and
idiots. I get that.
But I don't know. I think nobody's got the answer, but I would love to. Probably just.
Connor says my pints are rotten. I think it was around 340,000 drinks I sold in 6 years, Mark. So I'll let Connor do the maths on that turnover. And
was that your lock-ins? But
if we take the lock-ins into account, I must have pulled about 500,000. Right, we're going to do a wee quick fire with a few of the points that came in earlier, mate. Okay, because we went over an hour already.
Sorry, you rambling on.
No, it's fine. No, don't be daft. Sanford Celtic, the dead rubber home game against Feyenoord is a chance to embarrass us both on the European stage. Probably kind of covered that, so I don't know why I brought that one up. Personally, Monty says he's given up on the CL. What's the point to it? If the board don't help the manager with signing first-team ready players, I feel nothing in a Champions League night apart from dread. Me and you have had a back and forth on this, Mark, because I want you to be angry with Celtic. Do you know what? I said on the very brief solo PMP I did on Tuesday, I said genuinely, I never at any point I'd even thought, it hadn't even really occurred to me, Mark, this is a must-win game. Now, any must-win Celtic game, regardless of the competition, could be a League Cup replay. It could be a penalty shootout in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Well, a must-win moment, that would be. But, it could be, we need to claw the gap. Remember the mind the gap fucking season. Must-win games away from home against teams we should beat, but because the pressure's so high, it's in your mindset. At 2 p.m, even if the game's kicking off at 7:45, I never went into the game against Lazio at any point that day feeling we've got a must-win game tonight. Fuck. I'm like, am I converting to where the judge is? Monty's got a strong point there, doesn't he?
Aye, but I hope that I'm the very few, because I wouldn't want anybody else to think the way I do, because I'm the same as you. Like, sometimes I'll maybe be on my phone and I'll see the team news pop up and I go, fuck, I forgot we're playing. No for like the full day, but you forget for that minute the Celtic are playing. You don't check your phone, and it's not a nice feeling, because you feel guilty, don't you? You feel guilty like you're letting the club down in some way, and I blame the board. I don't blame myself for feeling that way. I blame the board. I want me to be as excited as what I used to be. And the fact that you're saying that, I've seen people on Twitter saying that, Monty, who's normally totally optimistic about Celtic, and then I've even had other podcasts saying it as well, that it's just pure at the stage, it's apathy. I watched Ryan 118 the other day there. Always good to watch Ryan, and he said similar, like, game's about to start and I'm a wee bit nervous and the rest of it, but I wasn't really convinced. I think he was just trying to get yourself up for it, and I think it's getting to the stage now, Bhoycie, where folk are just, do you know, maybe we're at this reality stage, this event horizon that the club want us to be at. You know what I mean? Where we can just see the edge, and we don't want it to be a night anymore. We don't want it to be we just don't want it to be.
Why would they want that though?
My theory when it comes to Celtic in the Champions League is the board want the money, right? A win's a win, extra cash is a bonus. But see, as soon as we start to speculate, to accumulate in the Champions League, it means spending money. And the board don't want to be in that situation. I genuinely believe that the club don't want too much money, because they'd be scared to spend it.
I'm going to read this out. Euratube, sorry, I should say Euratube.
Thanks, mate.
Euratube comes in and he says, up at 4:30 a.m. to watch the Lazio game. The missus asked why I keep doing this to myself. Fuck knows is the answer that he gave. That's sad.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, that is sad, because he's, that sort of dedication. We always speak about the punk duck on here who's based in Canada, and the dedication, whether it be Hamilton Ackies, he'd be up at that Vancouver Supporters Club, whether it be 4 a.m, no matter what. That's he's impressive. There to watch it.
I wouldn't get up, Bhoycie. Would you have got up for that the other day, though?
The honest truth, no. And the honest truth is, I still done the podcast after.
What's that?
I said the honest truth is, I still done the podcast after, but
no, you was when you went to your bed yet. But the matter is, do for the matter is, if I had told you that in the summertime, you'd have been like, I've been up at 3:30 with my
Totally,
can
mate.
my horn, wouldn't
Totally
have missed
agree.
it. So, and by the way, it's not just because of the results, it's more than the results, because this isn't new to us finishing last isn't new to us. We can kind of accept that in terms of we're competing, because we've been competing at certain stages, but just watching it and going, we could do so much better with our resources.
Correct.
Because I think
Correct.
Madrid away, in fact, see the amount of goals we've lost with 11 men on the park, it's been quite minimal. We've not lost a lot of goals this season with 11 players still in the park in the Champions League. You think about it, I mean, down to 9 men at Feyenoord lost the game, down to 10 men at the other one, as I say that, sleep disorder, good senior Liam, why you up at this time? That's probably about 3 in the afternoon to him, right enough. But okay, it's just I think it's more the anger of it all than the results. I think the results are nothing new to Celtic fans. I don't think it's anything that's going to shock us that we've been performing so badly results wise.
Alex comes in. She says
Yeah.
she only started watching the Champions League again. I'm guessing she means recently. She stopped for years because it made me down and embarrassed. I think the last 2 years have been the worst two for me by a mile. I think Lenny's.
Why?
Remember after the season after we got the last 16, right fisted we made that year. Lenny deserves credit for that, regardless.
10 points, that group with Benfica, Spartak Moscow, and Barcelona. 10 points.
Fantastic.
And don't forget,
But then the next year.
And then the next year was the next year. Was
hopeless. I'm sure it was the next year. Remember, we had Ajax in the group.
Oh, but we still won a match.
And we were getting.
We still won.
We got cuffed a few times, but this time around, I think the groups have been, as I was saying at the very top of the show, they've been doable in terms of competing for a third place finish. Man, I don't mind if we don't get there, right? If I know, well, Celtic couldn't have done more to tool up the manager. The team's putting the level of performance that we seem to have got loads of plaudits for last year, and way too many, in my opinion. But say we got loads of plaudits and we still finished with 4 or 5 points, and it just wasn't quite enough for third. I think we would all go, fuck it, see you all next year and we'll be better. I don't have any hope for see you next year in the Champions League. I think you go back to seeing what Alex is saying and going, Champions League. I dread it. I feel embarrassed even going into it because it will be the same again. That cannot be sport. And this is where it comes down to sport. You have to be able to compete, and you use the funds available to you to compete the best level you can at every tier of competition that you're in. Celtic focus on the domestic ones, the domestic bliss, and the Champions League one that seems out with our reach. They ensure is out with our reach because they refuse to even try. They refuse to try.
They never stamp your fate. I mean, the board can hide behind this blanket of we can't compete with Man City. Fine, nobody's asking you, but we can compete with Leipzig on 1.5 matches. Shakhtar Donetsk, who played 6 away matches last season, we couldn't match them. Feyenoord, sorry, we should be beating them. Lazio, I think that was a bad Lazio team. So I think Lenny would have got your hand off for the groups this year and last year. So would have Rodgers the first time. So would have Stratton. Martin, you would have finished tapping the groups. Maybe not Madrid last year, but you get where I'm going with that one. It's like, in terms of group campaigns, I think it's been the 2 easiest groups. Can you imagine we'd go a Man City or a PSG? Can you imagine?
Couple figures in the Champions League.
Oh my God, man!
Imagine that.
Imagine it was game 3 and 4, Man City home and away. When they had to win the matches, the first 11.
Fuck that, man.
Imagine that within our back. We'd probably get beat about 14-1 in their 2 legs. Do you know that? The 2 games, 3 and 4. And I must admit, I was dreading Atletico Madrid. Henrik Larsson. That's just for having a name like Henrik Larsson, mate.
I cannot believe that the judge of all people has brought graphics onto the bus.
I've done what Rodgers couldn't. I've brought us to the next level.
People
don't realise what I'm doing.
I know it was something that was pretty much like I was going to lose you. I was going to have to settle you on, mate, if I'd let on a certain someone who was mad for that. I think I would have lost you, mate. I could have not just lost you, but lost the dressing room if I brought in someone who was doing that. And now you start using his own trick.
Oh,
you're
God,
killing me, mate. You're killing me.
God, can you imagine that? Well,
I was saying you were right about it all, and now I'm like, maybe he's doing them himself.
We'll
Is this
do
you
something.
evolving into 2023?
I'm sitting in my kitchen as well. The two is sitting in our kitchens. Let's do that again. Oh, for fuck's sake. I need to find out the scope of this. There must be different actions. Hang on. What's that one again? That's Bubbles. Aye, but anyway, I need to find out the full array.
I wonder what find out the full repertoire. You're obviously into it now, mate.
Sitting like a
You're
scarecrow.
obviously into it now, mate.
I
think we'll call it there, mate. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. I think we've done okay. And obviously, remember the judge is still cool. He's just down with the kids now. He's on TikTok. He's on
Twitch. Catch me on Twitch. I'm going to play Sonic the Hedgehog. You can watch me on Twitch, bros and hoes.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Aye, I'll be there, mate. Oh,
that's the best part. I'll be on Twitch playing Sonic the Hedgehog.
Don't knock it. I'll be getting 14,000 views fighting in the labyrinth. Remember that, the labyrinth?
Oh, mate.
Old school computer games.
Do you know I've got one of those? I've got one of those emulators, mate.
I was going to get one. Is it good?
It's unreal, sir. Like I've got one. I think I paid 60 quid for it on eBay.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to play it tonight. Look, wait 2 seconds.
Look at a mad house, man. For a mad. Your house is like a creche, isn't it?
It's wee activity room. Wee activity room for the wee special boys.
Is it?
Look, just that wee thing there, mate. Aye. It's got 10,000 games on it. But look, there's the controller.
Donkey Kong. You got that in it?
Aye.
That's the one I want to play. I missed that.
Aye, Donkey Kong.
The wee barrel used to go down and jump at it. That was a class game, Matt. Quite tricky. I tell you what I loved. Remember the scope for the NES? Or that was the SNES. Remember the
SNES? Duck Hunt.
No, there was a. You're all done. You look. No, remember the big scope. You had a scope for that one. It was like you bought. You had the scope and you get 2 games.
What one should I play tonight? I've got all the Sega. It's got
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong. No, that's fucking. Like, Donkey Kong's like fucking.
Mate, that's a class one.
I've got. I might. Do you know what? You're my favorite one. I can get right lost in, right? It's fucking Super Mario 3. And you can like flip the wee fucking thing way, and like if you get the wee key, and you can jump about, like you can jump to the next like portal and that, like to the next level, mate. Once you get into that, it's like whoa. I'm in for the long haul tonight, man. Do you know what I mean?
Some ways wouldn't, if there's anybody under age of 30, they might not even know. But remember, you used to press pause on your computer game and turn the telly off, so you went to school, you come back and it saved your channel. Yeah, mad lap with the Hoover. Listen,
it's quite a precarious wee thing because obviously it just hangs by an HDMI. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, what? So if you're like one wee budge and it's like it just freezes,
So spoils your life.
I get it right wedged in, man. I'm like, right, like even if I like spill a drink of that, do you know what I mean? Like as long as you don't touch the wee emulator, we'll be all right. But have you got Paperboy on it? Yeah, Paperboy's on it, mate. Like everything.
What was the one? I had a Master System, and you had.
Yeah. Alex that's all on it as well.
Alex the Kid, remember that one? You done
I've got that.
The wee swim. It was a wee swim down to the next level, and you play rock paper scissors to get to the next level, which you never lost no matter what you picked.
What's the other one? Streets of Rage is good. Streets of Rage is right good because an ex-missus now, right? And we were thick as thieves at the time. Like, so there's an option, right, in Streets of Rage when you get to the last boss, you can either join the guy, join the baddies, or you can fight them. And the 2 years, played a 2-player, both shifted left and said join at the same time. And I went, oh. It kicks you back, though. Just spoiler alert. It kicks you back to fucking, like, level 5. When the extra... I was like, fuck, no, do that again.
Remember Shinobi? You ever play that?
Oh, The Revenge of.
Aye.
Oh, mate.
Oh, I remember there was one. It was a Simpsons game. I'm talking about the early 90s. You had a skateboard. You used to just go along the street and you used to have to jump.
Yeah. I know the one. Aye. Do you remember? This is a wee bit obscure, right? But it's a belter and it's on there. MC Kids, and it was McDonald's Kids, mate. Honestly, once you play that, man, like. It's so good. It's unreal. It's the best game. And guess who makes it? Virgin Media.
Would
I'm
you
like,
say?
that Richard Branson's got his finger in every
He's
pie
a
I
daft,
do.
is he? He's a
Oh,
daft.
man. But I'm going to play that now, man.
I'm about to try and spin and go faster out this room.
Anyway, this has been a brilliant episode of the T.N.F versus Judgement or Cross Judgment Day. Bhoycie versus the Judge. It's not like that. We're all pals. We're all pals. It is just flicking thumbs up just like that. Right, it's been around 20 minutes. We'll get the fuck out of here and everyone go enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Fun as always on the bus. And as always, Judge will say it for me. Keep your eyes
on this board.